morning. Welcome to Coffee with Caregivers.
Morning.
Hi, Keith. How are you?
Good. How are you, Irene?
It's good to see you this morning.
Good to see you as well.
Well, I got another episode of Coffee with Caregivers this week. I hope last week was a wonderful one, and that the coming week will even be better. Hopefully, that's something we can say every week, right? I'm going to show you my coffee cup, and in the process of doing that, I'm going to make a little bit of fun of our guest, Keith. And the reason why I feel like I can do that is because Keith is not only my guest today, but he's my friend. And we've done trainings together and traveled together, spent a lot of hours in cars together. And so I know I can poke a little bit of fun at him. We were going to record this episode, I guess a week or so ago. And he's busy work schedule and probably some things at home too, made it, he wasn't able to do it. And so I got up that morning and I put all my makeup on, right? Pretty blouse, combed my hair. Everything you can see was made up very nicely. And then I got the email saying that Keith wasn't going to be able to do the recording. And I'm like, well, heck, I just a total waste of makeup today. And so when my friend who lives in the same complex came down to visit a little bit later in the day and have a cup of coffee, I was telling her, I said, well, she said, gosh, you look nice today, Irene. You going somewhere? And I said, no, but I was going to do this recording and it just, totally wasted all this makeup. Well, a couple of days later, she walks in and this says, today was a total waste of makeup. So I got a new coffee cup, Keith, because of you.
Hey, there you go.
There you go. I think it's a good reason to get a coffee cup.
I think so. Good.
So thank you.
And it looks Texas style. It looks giant. So
It is a big one. Yes, it's a big one. And so I thank you for giving the opportunity to my friend Martha for getting me the cup. So
awesome.
So Keith, I know that you're a foster dad, have quite a few kids in the home, I think, yet. And I know you work, just a busy life that you and your family have. And one of the things we try to do on a fairly frequent basis with this program is to talk about self-care, taking care of yourself, well-being. How do you promote well-being in others if you're not well yourself? And when I thought about who could I get in June to talk about that, because it's just that important. I think we have to talk about it at least once a month. And so I thought of you because I hear some of your stories and some of your adventures and things like that. And I know what having, a lot of kids in the house for long periods of time can do. I'm just so thankful right now I don't have young children at home. Be dealing with a lot of the school stuff and everything that y'all had to deal with was just incredible. I am caretaker to my 36-year-old daughter who has Down syndrome, and I kind of relate a little bit because there's not a lot we can do and take her out and expose her to things. And she just had surgery on her foot. And so she's completely incapacitated now and can't put any weight on it. So I was telling somebody a while ago that for the first time, after about 5 hours of her bossing me around, telling me what she needs now, and I just said to her, Melissa, just give me a minute. I was doing something on the computer. I said, just give me a minute. And she looked at me and snapped her finger like that at me. And I'm like, what? Wait a minute. What did you just do? That kind of thing. So I know how it gets. And I'm dealing with one adult, right, who has special needs and very special needs right now and is very dependent on me. But it just brought home to me again one more time when she did that. That was Friday evening. What are the families going through? What are the parents going through? that have a house full, right? And how are they managing all this? So that's my segue into introducing you. And I want you to tell the audience what you think is important to tell about you, and then tell us
Okay.
about your cup.
No, sounds great. So I'll start with my coffee cup. So this is a coffee cup. You might have seen the bottom of it. It's signed by a friend of mine. She's a potter. She works locally, and she knew we love coffee. And so she used her own hands and clay and made us some coffee cups. And it's kind of not your traditional,
No, a different
size or
design.
breadth. And so, it still fits under the Keurig. So that's
There you
awesome.
go.
You have to use an extra long spoon to get down to the bottom and swirl the cream. But my friend, the potter, made it, and that's why it's special to me. And it's kind of one of a kind. So that's why I
Awesome.
love it. To kind of kick it off, my name is Keith Mason. I live in Crawfordsville, Indiana, which is a small rural town about 45 minutes northwest of Indianapolis. I am a foster father. I have 3 biological sons, a 16-year-old, 13-year-old, and 10-year-old. And then 2 years ago, Rebecca, my wife, and I took on a sibling group of 4. That sibling group currently is 13 years old as of yesterday. The top one, the girl, turned 13. We have a 12-year-old boy, a 10-year-old girl, and 2-year-old girl as well. And so I have a breadth of 16-year-old to 2-year-old and everything and anything that encompasses. And that's in addition to our 2 Great Danes and a fat cat. So we are all cohabitating here in our home, and we've been really cohabitating here since March. We are hardcore kind of social distancers because we want to keep that whole brood safe, and we want to keep others that we know safe. And so we spent a whole lot of time together, and self-care, both of myself, of kind of Rebecca and I, of our bigger family, of my relationships with each one of the kids, is kind of a hopefully thoughtful process. Sometimes that goes kind of crazy because things happen. But I think the first and foremost thing is you got to think about it. And it's not something that you just let the wind decide for you. So again, we kind of think in those different segments of how do we kind of keep everybody calm. Obviously that calm starts with our own inner calm. Kind of personally, my calm, Rebecca has her calm, we have our calm together. And then kind of we set the kind of the model, right? If we're calm, everybody else seems to be calm. If we're not calm, well, everybody watches it and follows.
Yep.
So if a 2-year-old is just full on throwing it down on the floor and screaming and yelling, well, I can choose to join her on the floor and scream and yell, and that sets a model, or I can choose to just, let her be and have her moment, because maybe that's what she needs at that point in time. And so I think first off, I would say you just have to think about it. It's just not something you let happen. I think secondly, what we've done with that many people in general, so 9 of us in the house, we have structure. So, there's bedtime, there's chores. Rebecca is amazing at coming up with the daily plan. Each child has a daily plan, meaning they have a little piece of paper when they wake up that says, hey, here's an exercise thing you got to do. Hey, here's a creative thing you got to do. Hey, here's a fun thing you got to do. That also includes, hey, clean your room. Here's a chore, stuff like that. So there's stuff to get everybody started for the day. So they just don't wake up and hit the television or hit a device. They actually kind of are productive, I guess you would say, for the lack of a better word, and kind of having fun and kind of getting all their juices flowing, so they're not zombies. And then kind of after all that's done, then there is downtime. So I think also thinking about kind of how do you provide those moments where people just chill, just rest. My 16-year-old calls it vibing. So I'm like, hey, what are you doing? I'm just vibing. Okay, you've been vibing for about 8 hours now, so it's time to do something else. But everybody has to have a downtime as well. And kind of, so for me personally, the downtime that I have going on is, a coffee in the morning. That's kind of intuitive maybe, but coffee calms me down and kind of starts my day. And then I do have to work. So Monday through Friday, I work during the day with craziness going all around me. So you might see a person, not particularly right now, fly through the background. And that's just the way it is. And I think accepting things is also kind of a technique. Is, this isn't kind of what you had expected if you're working from home or being at home, but it's kind of the norm. And thinking norms and being open to new norms and realizing that, hey, things are changing, things have changed, and it's okay. And you just kind of adjust. I think that's the other thing, is don't be rigid. So we do have structures, but there's flexibility kind of in that. And so that kind of keeps you calm. I have a garden that I put in that helps me out. So I just check out that garden, I watch it, I water it, kind of help it grow. So I think you have to also have your own things that calm you down, whether that's reading or exercising or watching TV for a little bit during the day or stuff like that. One of the biggest things that as a caregiver, Rebecca and I both understand is we need our time together as well. And we almost get that. And so because I'm working from home, I take breaks during the day. So, I work for several hours, and then she and I put the 2-year-old in the stroller at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we go for an hour walk. We get about 2.5 miles walking around the town. And then at 2 o'clock, take another break, and we walk for another 2.5 miles. And then at 7 o'clock, the golden hour, the baby goes to sleep. And we have someone else keep eyes on her or listen for her. And then we go on our own 2.5-hour walk. So I'm averaging about, 5 to 8 miles a day, which is kind of probably the biggest calming, because it does a lot of things, right? You get fresh air, you get exercise, you get to talk one-on-one with someone, you get to explore and see what other people are doing. So I think kind of, getting out of the house doesn't mean going to Kroger and putting on your mask, or going to Walmart and putting on your mask, or getting some fast food. It just means kind of going beyond your territorial boundaries that COVID is keeping people in. So those are some of the things, Irene, that we're doing around this house to keep calm. And on average, I would say 85.36% of the time, everybody is chill. And then there's obviously the 14 point whatever percent of the time that kind of things go a little crazy, and you have a Calgon moment and you want to be taken away, even if you don't have a bathtub anymore because you got rid of it, right? So you have that Calgon moment anyway.
Yeah. So do the kids ever help with the garden, or is that that's for you? Or is that something you can go do a one-on-one with some of the kids?
No, so that's another good point. So what we've also done is we kind of have one-on-one activities with people too. So whether Beck takes a couple of the guys and they go to a local trail and walk for an hour or so, or I have the kids help me kind of plant the garden. I just planted about a week and a half ago, and it's a raised bed, so it's not going to have a lot of weeds and stuff that I have to work it too hard. Or build a fort in the backyard or stuff like that. We kind of do the kind of divide and conquer as well. And then I think in addition to that, then we also kind of regroup as a team and do like a game night or something silly like that. And then there's even more segmentation sometimes, because once certain kids go to bed, that leaves certain other kids up, and so you can even play like just a game with them. So again, everybody needs a little bit, and so you kind of figure out how to spread that out. And obviously you go to bed exhausted from kind of coordinating and collaborating that. But I think also the last kind of probably thing to think about too is getting good rest. And so how do you get good rest and kind of wake up semi-refreshed every morning, knowing that you kind of do it again and again and again.
I think that's probably the biggest challenge. It's one thing to have to kind of sporadically be on all the time, but to be on pretty much all the time, different. It gets really tiring. And a mom was saying to me the other day, she said, "Gosh, Irene, I always say be nice to your family like you are to your neighbors and your strangers and the lady at church and all that." And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "It's hard." It's just, I wasn't being very nice to my family, I found. I was snapping at them and, just kind of being a little rude once in a while and some of that stuff. And I feel so bad about it. And so we had a nice little chat about, expectations, and you can't be, you're just not going to be perfect at being a parent all the time, and you're not going to be 100% on all the time. But our goal is to be the best we can be, right, at any given time. And
Yep.
and I think that's what you're describing there. You've got to have your breaks, and sometimes the days can get really long. I had another foster father say to me, he said, man, even said I'm an essential worker, so I have to work, and then I come home and I'm really, really exhausted. And my pattern and my routine has always been sit down to eat supper and then watch TV. It's done for years. And my wife pretty much takes care of everything, and knows that I'm tired, and I just need to just sit there and vegetate in front of that television. And he said, I can't do that anymore because she's pulling her hair out, because the kids are just different now, because they are cooped up, they are challenged, they don't have their friends, they don't, went down the litany of all the things that our kids are experiencing. And he said, I don't know, I'm finding I don't really know how to interact with my own kids, much less the ones that are in foster care. And for him, it was a sad awakening that he had kind of advocated over the years to his wife, because he was tired. And so they're trying to reprioritize, what can he do to get a little rejuvenation and going into his evenings in order to be more a part of the family. And so one of the things they started doing was a game night. I think they said every third night now. And so the television doesn't get turned on, and they figure out, do we all play one game or do we have several going at one time, depending on, who the kids are and their ages. But he said it's starting to make a difference. The kids don't seem to be quite as hyper as they were. They don't seem to be yelling as much. They're not coming around and, like trying to get my attention. And he said, I realized that all that time I was having to say, y'all be quiet, stop, I can't hear, Daddy's tired. They were really wanting me, for me, not to go necessarily do something in particular for them, but they just needed me. So I think that with everything that's happening, and we talk about the negatives a lot of times about since March, but there's absolutely some positives that are growing out of the necessity that families are feeling to be present and to be more interactive, and understanding that a lot of the behaviors they were seeing before were really acting out behaviors because they wanted their parents' attention.
Yeah, I think people crave connectivity no matter who you are and where you are in life or what you do in life. I think the biggest change for me from a COVID standpoint was I travel a lot for my work. I travel with you sometimes.
Yeah, you do.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm spending time with you, or I'm spending time with others doing my job. And that means I'm not spending it with my kids, whether that's a biological kid or a foster kid. And I tell other coworkers, you never get those moments back. You can't recreate time. You can't add additional time. And so I think what COVID has done for me, as to that father's point, I love to play. I'm super play person, whether it's Playmobil or a ping pong game or a tightrope walker. I love playing games of all sorts. But I think, again, I haven't traveled since early March, and I probably won't travel for quite a while. And so it
Yeah.
does give you that time where you're not away anymore, right? And so it gives you the opportunity to either make those connections or just kind of stay in your rut and do what you used to do. I'm hoping that most people choose to make more and more connections. I randomly during the day sometimes just text my two older ones who hang out with their friends a lot and want to be gone a lot just because that's where they're at in age. I'm like, hey, who wants to play chess? And hopefully someone takes me up on that, right? And that's like a 10 to 20-minute game, depending on how bad they're beating me or how lucky I get that I took their queen or something like that. But even 10 or 20 minutes, right? That's still
Yes. It
That's
is.
still a connection, right?
Well, and
Obviously,
it shows you were thinking about them.
right.
And you
And
have
so
to
I
you,
think that
right?
from calming and caregiving, again, I get to hang out with them, but it's calming to play chess because you're doing a lot of things there, right? You're kind of picking your brain for how to make the moves. You're sitting across from someone you love. You're doing something together, and you know that those things stack up and go into the deposit, right?
That's right.
And so if you're going to go on a trip at some point down the road, those things fill that gap.
Yeah.
So I think that, again, it's fairly calming to me when kids say yes, they want to hang out with you, and then you can hang out with them, and then also knowing that, hey, I can't hang out sometimes, and that's okay too, because I gotta get things done.
Right. Right.
So
Well, it's, everybody's different, and so everybody has to adjust to these things the way they can. Uh, so for the younger, I know you've got a couple of 10-year-olds and all right, they're kind of bunched up, 11, 12, kind of age kids. Do they typically get along well together, or because they're so kind of uniform in age and development, with the older ones starting to get their sense of, I guess, independence more? Do you find that you have to provide more interactions with them than, say, the older or the younger kids?
yeah, the older guys are kind of they do their own thing a lot, whether it's go on a social distance bike ride with their friends or have a fire where they're social distancing, out back.
Yeah, yeah,
So they're pretty good on their own. I have to kind of pull them a little bit more and say, hey, come on, spend 15, 20 minutes with me. The four in the middle, we call them the middles. They kind of are their own team, right? They're their own play set. Where you look at some of the kids that are around us, there's a single kid living in the house, or maybe two kids that have big age gaps. They're trying to find something to do over there, right? But here, I mean, 10, 10, 12, 13, they're almost in the same age group. And so they're
yeah.
always hunkering about, and kind of, whether it's playing frisbee, whether it's playing soccer, whether it's hanging out in the woods, whether it's walking around a local school, doing just dance, they have their play group. And then you go down to the bottom one, and that's 2-year-old, and she's probably the most hands-on because she usually is in daycare. That was the other big change, is since March, she hasn't been in daycare. And so, she, you know, she's here all the time. And so she likes to kind of engage with us. So, again,
Sure.
if I'm on a call, she's usually on my lap, or she's sitting next to me on her quote unquote device, which is just like a Fisher Price thing where buttons push and it makes sounds. Or she's doing self play, right? But I would say that she's the kind of the energy grabber of the household, and kind of needs the most hands on. And then sometimes we have the middles engage her or the olders engage her, because that's kind of fun as well. And she likes to just dance and kind of hang out with them as well. So, but yeah, I would say that the youngest 2-year-old kind of needs the most attention, obviously, because that's where she's at in life.
Yeah. So do you ever have any issues with getting them to do their chores? Do they ever fight back on that, or?
They're not in love with their chores, but
I'm not
they
either.
have.
I wouldn't mind, but
And there's we have 4 chores during the night. So the 4 middles take care of the night chores. So it's feed the dog, feed the cat, let the dog out, and take out the trash. So every night there's a rotating schedule that we have up on a wall. So there's no questions. Hey, your name's next to this one. We have it going out for a month. They do their thing. If they do that thing, then they get some device time before they go to bed. And so it's like clockwork.
no.
And sometimes they trade up on the chores, but we really don't have a problem with any of that. And then during the day when they wake up, there's usually some kind of chore, whether it's like, clean the bathroom or swift the floor. So we have 2 dogs and a cat and all those kids that are dropping hair every once in a while.
Right.
So, I would say overall, pretty good on the chores.
That's nice.
And they
That's
see us,
good.
and again, they see us doing it. So I'm doing dishes at night, or Beck's creating the list, or, stuff like that. So, again, I think as it relates to the modeling piece, it's what you model at home that everybody's going to follow. And if I was sitting on the couch watching TV all day, well, they might fuss if I said, hey, you can't sit on the couch and watch TV all day. But
Right.
you know me, Irene,
Well,
I'm a
you're high
nonstop.
energy. You're very high energy. I can tell you that because you wear me out every time we travel together. I'm tired because
I,
I'm trying to keep up with Keith.
yeah, I have to push myself to rest, right?
I like the polar opposite of me, but maybe that's why I like you so much, because you keep me energized and keep me going and keep me interested in things. One other thing I wanted to ask, because we've had this question come in about um, trying to make the most of the time with the kids. So during the time when they were needing to do schoolwork and things like that, is that something that your wife pretty much had to handle because of you working, or is that something y'all tried to share a little bit, or how did you get the kids to do all the work that was being assigned?
Yeah, so we did e-learning kind of fairly early, and the e-learning changed kind of over time. So lots at the beginning and less at the end. But again, every morning when they woke up the night before, Beck had kind of said, "Hey, schoolwork is just part of your morning ritual, right?" And
Right.
then we would get text and stuff from the teachers, and they would have to do that work before they could do other fun kind of stuff. If they had questions, Beck kind of fielded a lot of the questions depending on what level. I'm the social studies, English kind of guy. She's the math science kind of gal.
Oh, very
And
good.
so we uh, partner on that. And then luckily working at UnitedHealthcare, they realize that kind of we're home and what our situation is. And so they're flexible on, hey, if your kid's going to need some help during the day, or if you need to do something during the day that you can only do that time, then, do that, take that flexibility. So that's been very nice to have kind of my boss in the corporation, realize that being sequestered with all that energy takes a lot of time, and sometimes you just need to take a break, and that's okay, and the work's still going to
Absolutely.
get done, and we're still going to move forward. But yeah, I would say Beck has taken most of the schoolwork help. We got done May 15th, so we were pretty lucky there. And again, now they still have reading every day they have to do, just kind of because that's good for you, and
Sure.
kind of some other stuff like that. Yeah.
Sure.
So
So a lot of families are taking this time to do, like more having the kids cook more with them and kind of just teaching those life skill kinds of things that either didn't really have time for before, or maybe the kids weren't really interested in. But now it seems like kids are more into it, I guess, just because they need more things to do, to keep them occupied. And so we're hearing parents say, this is really actually kind of good, because I couldn't interest them in helping to cook, all they wanted to do is eat it. Now they're standing around, what can I do? What can I help? And so they're using it as some really good teaching time, um, and are hoping that it'll last, once they get back into their own routine with school and things, hopefully during the fall. So are y'all doing that sort of thing too? Or, I don't know, is Becca the cook and that's it? Or do you cook a lot?
no, we spread the cooking out, but again, structure is king or queen, and we have a full menu for breakfast, lunch, and dinner all week. And that
Wonderful.
helps with that's what helps with grocery,
The
right? Because
grocery
shopping for 9
shopping.
people when there may be limitations,
Absolutely.
it's been
I
interesting.
absolutely.
But again, she puts in there kind of, she took a survey of what would you like to cook of everybody, and then they said this is what you'd like to cook, and then she integrates that into the menus. And so last week somebody was the panini master, so they made all the paninis. They took the orders, they made the paninis. Yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday someone was the pancake maker, so they made chocolate chip pancakes and kind of did all that, learned how to flip, learned how to pour, sausage and gravy. So yeah, so she has done
Awesome.
an amazing job of kind of integrating that. And then again, depending on who's the chef that day, or we like to cook kind of together, and the kids see that again. And we play music while we're cooking, and sometimes we do the theme music. So if we're having Italian, I do Pandora Italian music or Mexican music, or whatever it
That's
is,
great.
just to kind of keep it real. And so the kids get into that. But yeah, they've definitely done that. I think the thing to think about is, what can you keep moving forward, right? Because if you're loving it and you like all this kind of interaction, connection, and again, there's going to be other constraints once things open up and kids are in 3 different sports and have a
Right,
job and stuff like that. But
exactly.
again, how do you consciously and with effort keep what you liked, right? Or take a mini
Right,
size of that and make sure you do it. So on the weekends there's nothing going on, then how do you COVID your weekend? Because COVID was where you were tight, right? So
yeah,
how are you going to do that moving forward when things start to loosen up, but also then prepare for things might get back to that kind of squish together, right? And kind of be
right,
more flexible. But I think that whether it's the gentleman you were talking about earlier or just people that are listening to this, I think the things that you see that have surfaced that maybe you didn't think about before or didn't do before, how do you keep that? How do you make it real and part of your everyday?
exactly.
In some way. It doesn't have to be the full blown, just make it a little bit, 15,
Right,
10, make them cook one meal, everybody cook together, whatever, because I think that's going to make it rich and it's going to make your life richer. It's going to keep you calm because, again, if you're connecting on more cylinders, the calm just happens. It's not something you have
yeah,
to create, it's
I
just
agree,
it kind of
I agree.
happens, as long as you're planning the other stuff. And the more people you have, the more planning you might have to do up front. It's like painting, right? You put the tape down and you can paint as crazy and fast and furious as you want. You take the tape off and there's no paint on the trim.
Right,
So you got, it's just the same kind of
right, prepare,
thing. Yep.
look forward, right. Yeah, I think that, some of that you just said at the end is really important for people to take home with them after this, so to speak, about picking the good parts that seem to be working the best and that the kids seem to be enjoying, and figure out how to work those in when life gets back to um, normal. I'm not going to say the new normal because I don't know what that's going to be, but as normal as we need it or want it to be, I guess it might be the way it goes. Because if we could go back to normal, I've had a few people say to me too, I don't know if I want to go all the way back to normal because I don't know, right? And that's like this dad I was telling you about. He doesn't want it to go back to that. He has this new awareness and he's trying to figure out, how do I be effective now, but how do I don't lose that when things go back to normal? So he said, I don't really want things to go back to that much of a normal for us at least he said for me. So I think that's something that all of our listeners can kind of think about as time moves forward, about what are those things that are making and seeming to make the most difference in the mental health well-being and the overall well-being of their entire family. And then, try to incorporate those things. Like you said, it might only be on the weekend, because I know our life when our kids were younger and they were involved in everything under the sun, it was hard to have supper together, right? I mean, because somebody was at practice somewhere and somebody else was someplace else and somebody was running to take one there and pick up the other one over there. And, it'd be 10 o'clock at night before we could eat together if we were all had to be at the table. So there's times when we got to just adjust to that if it's important that our kids belong in all of those things, and then figure out how to work those in on the other nights or the weekends. So Keith, I think
Yep.
our time is about up.
Okay.
Thank you. And I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I appreciate you letting me make a little bit of fun of our my coffee cup at your expense.
No worries.
Won't be the last time, probably. And I look forward for you to be a guest on this show on a more regular basis in the future.
Well, thank you, Irene, for having me. And again, keep calm and carry on, right?
Yes, sir. You got it. Any final words you want to say to our listeners before we go?
I would say, again, keep calm and carry on. And calm does take work. And what Irene was talking about there at the end is all about muscle memory, right? So if you didn't know how to play games before and you've learned how to play games, you still got to exercise those muscles, whether they're mental muscles or physical muscles. And with the physical muscles, you have a workout plan, right? So you still have to have a workout plan for your mental muscles. So keep working out, keep figuring out how that helps you connect, and then figure out how that connection and those connections help keep it calm and allow you to carry on, right?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Irene.
Absolutely. Thank you, Keith. And thanks, everybody, for being a part of our program today. We appreciate you very much. Bye-bye.